The morning sun rose over Seoul like it had done for thousands of years. Children walked to school. Workers filled the subway trains. Street vendors sold hot food on every corner. It was an ordinary Tuesday on planet Earth. Taeho stood on the rooftop of the military base, drinking his coffee and watching the city wake up. He was 42 years old, a fleet commander in the United Earth Defense Force. His black hair was turning gray at the sides, and his face carried the lines of a man who had seen too much space and not enough home. His communicator buzzed. It was Yuna, his chief scientist and oldest friend. "The sensors are picking up something strange," she said. Her voice was calm but serious. "Multiple objects entering the solar system. They are not asteroids." 7. Taeho set down his coffee. "How many?" "Thousands, maybe more. They are moving in formation." He felt his heart go cold. Humanity had made contact with alien species 20 years ago. They had met traders, explorers, and diplomats from a dozen different worlds, but they had also heard whispers about the Velran Empire, a civilization that conquered everything in its path, a species that saw other races as nothing more than obstacles. "Get me a visual," Taeho said. The image appeared on his screen. Massive warships filled the darkness of space. They were shaped like black daggers, each 1 kilometers long. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars behind them. "Contact the president," Taeho ordered. "Contact everyone. This is not a diplomatic visit." The next 3 hours were chaos. World leaders tried to establish communication with the alien fleet. Scientists analyzed the ships and found weapon systems beyond anything humanity had ever built. Military commanders moved their forces into defensive positions, even though they knew it would make no difference. The Velran Empire did not respond to any message. They did not negotiate. They did not explain. At exactly noon, they opened fire. The first beams of light came down from the sky like the anger of gods. They struck the major cities first. New York vanished in a flash of white heat. Tokyo became a crater. London, Beijing, Moscow, Cairo, Sydney. One by one, the great cities of Earth turned to ash and smoke. Taeho watched Seoul disappear. The city where he was born. The streets where he had played as a child. The house where his mother still lived. All of it. Gone in a heartbeat. He fell to his knees. Around him, soldiers screamed and cried. Some ran without direction. Others simply stood frozen, unable to understand what they were seeing. Yuna found him on the rooftop. Her face was covered in dust and tears. She grabbed his arm and pulled him to his feet. "We have to move," she said. "The escape ships are launching from the underground base. If we stay here, we die." Taeho looked at the burning horizon. 7 billion people, he whispered. "They are killing 7 billion people, and they will kill 7 billion and 2 if we do not run. Now move." She dragged him down the stairs and through the burning hallways. Bodies lay everywhere. The ceiling crumbled. Fire spread from room to room. But Yuna did not stop. She had always been the stronger one, even when they were young students together. She had always been the one to make the hard choices. They reached the underground hangar as the last ships prepared to launch. Hundreds of people pushed and fought to get aboard. Mothers held children. Old men carried the wounded. Everyone was screaming. Taeho saw a young officer trying to maintain order. His name was Jae-won, barely 25 years old, but he stood firm against the panic. "Women and children first," Jae-won shouted. "Form lines. We have room for everyone if you stay calm." Taeho pushed through the crowd and grabbed the young man's shoulder. "How many ships do we have?" 12, sir. Enough for maybe 8,000 people." 8,000. Out of 7 billion. Taeho felt sick. "Launch as soon as they are full," he ordered. "Do not wait for anyone. Do not look back." The ships lifted off one by one, flying through tunnels that led to the ocean and then to the sky. Inside Taeho's vessel, people sat in silence. Some prayed. Some wept. Most simply stared at nothing, their minds unable to accept what had happened. Yuna sat next to Taeho. She was working on her tablet, collecting data even now. The attacks are global, she reported. Every continent. Every nation. They are being thorough. Why? Tejo asked. Why would they do this? We never threatened them. We barely knew they existed. Yuna shook her head. The Velron Empire does not need a reason. According to the records from other species, they destroy any civilization that might one day challenge them. They call it prevention. Prevention, Tejo repeated. The word tasted like poison. The ship broke through the atmosphere and entered the cold darkness of space. Through the windows, the survivors could see their planet below. Earth was covered in fire. Entire land masses glowed red with heat. The oceans boiled along the coastlines. Clouds of smoke and ash covered everything. A little girl pressed her face against the glass. Is everyone down there dead? She asked. No one answered her. The Velron fleet did not pursue the escape ships. 12 tiny vessels were not worth their attention. They continued their work, burning every city, every town, every village. They turned forests into deserts. They melted the ice caps. They made sure that nothing would ever grow on Earth again. Tejo watched until he could not watch anymore. Then he stood up and faced the survivors. Listen to me, he said. His voice was rough with grief, but it was steady. Today we lost everything. Our homes, our families, our world. 7 billion of our brothers and sisters are gone. The survivors looked at him with empty eyes. The Velron Empire thinks they have destroyed us. They think we are finished. But they made a mistake. Tejo's hands formed into fists. They did not kill all of us. And as long as one human being draws breath, we will remember what they did. We will rebuild. We will grow strong. And we will make them pay for every single life they took. Yuna stood beside him. He is right. We have knowledge. We have determination. And we have something the Velron Empire has never faced before. We have nothing left to lose. Young J1 raised his fist. For Earth, he said. One by one, the other survivors raised their fists. For Earth, the 12 ships flew into the darkness between stars. Behind them, their homeworld burned. Ahead of them, an uncertain future waited. But in their hearts, a fire had started. Not the fire of destruction that consumed their planet, but the fire of revenge. The Velron Empire had made the greatest mistake in their long history of conquest. They had not destroyed humanity. They had only made humanity angry, and humanity would spend every moment of every day, for however many years it took, preparing for the day when they would return the favor. The war was not over. It had only just begun. 50 years passed in the darkness between stars. The 12 escape ships had become 12 hidden colonies scattered across forgotten corners of the galaxy. They built their homes inside asteroids, on frozen moons, and in the wreckage of abandoned alien stations. They lived like ghosts, invisible to the empire that had tried to erase them. General Tejo was 92 years old now. His hair was completely white, and his body was weak, but his eyes still burned with the same fire from the day Earth died. He had spent half a century preparing for revenge, and he would not rest until it was complete. He sat in his command chair on Station Omega, the largest of the human settlements. It was built inside a hollow asteroid at the edge of a dead solar system. No one came here. No one cared about this empty place. That made it perfect for hiding. General, she is here, said his assistant. Tejo nodded. Send her in. The door opened and a young woman walked in. She was 23 years old, with short black hair and the confident walk of a natural pilot. Her name was Hana, and she was the best pilot humanity had produced in 50 years. She was also the daughter of J1, who had become one of Tejo's most trusted officers before his death 10 years ago. You wanted to see me, General? Hana asked. Tejo studied her face. She looked so much like her father. The same strong jaw. The same determined eyes. Sit down. Hana, we need to talk about your future. Hana sat across from him. She was curious but not nervous. Nothing seemed to make her nervous. I have watched you since you were a child, Tejo said. Your father was one of my closest friends. He died believing that you would help finish what we started. I remember, sir. He talked about Earth every day until the end. Did he tell you about the day it burned? Hana nodded slowly. He said, it was the worst day in human history. But also, the most important. Because it showed us who we really are. Teho leaned forward. And who are we, Hana? We are survivors. We are fighters. And we never forget. The old general smiled. It was a rare thing these days. Good. Then you are ready to hear what I am about to tell you. Oh. He pressed a button on his chair, and a holographic map appeared between them. It showed a distant star system, with a small planet orbiting a red sun. This is the Kessor system, Teho explained. 3 months ago, one of our scout ships found something there. An old Velran supply station that was abandoned centuries ago. Hana studied the map. Why would we care about an abandoned station? Because it was not completely empty. Our scouts found technology inside. Weapons technology. The kind of weapons that the Empire used against Earth. Hana's eyes went wide. Are you serious? Very serious. The technology is old, but it is still far beyond anything we have. If we can recover it and study it, we might be able to build weapons that can actually hurt the Velran fleet. For 50 years, humanity had struggled with this problem. Their ships were fast and clever, but their weapons were too weak to damage Velran armor. They could run, hide, and spy, but they could not fight. Not really. When do we leave? Hana asked immediately. Teho raised his hand. It is not that simple. The station is in a system that borders Velran territory. If we send a large force, they might notice. We need a small team of the best pilots we have. They must go in fast, grab what they can, and get out before anyone knows they were there. I can do it. I know you can. That is why I am putting you in command of the mission. Hana stared at him. In command? But there are more experienced officers. None of them fly like you do. None of them think as fast as you do under pressure. Your father saw it when you were just a child. He told me that you would be the one to lead us when the time came. Teho reached across and put his old hand on her young shoulder. The time has come, Hana. Do not let us down. 3 weeks later, Hana led a team of 4 ships into the Kessor system. Her crew included the best pilots and engineers from all 12 colonies. They had trained together in secret, memorizing every detail of the mission. The abandoned station floated in orbit around the red planet. It was shaped like a ring, covered in dust and micrometeor damage. No lights, no signals. It looked dead. Scanning now, reported her engineer, a quiet man named Dongsu. No life signs, no active power systems. But there is definitely something in the lower storage levels. Hana guided her ship toward the docking port. Everyone stay alert. Just because it looks dead does not mean it is safe. They docked and entered the station. The air was thin and cold, but breathable. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing hallways covered in strange alien writing. The Velran language. Hana had learned to read it as a child. All human children did now. Storage level 3. She read from a sign. This way, they moved deeper into the station. Every shadow made them reach for their weapons. Every distant sound made them freeze and listen. But nothing attacked them. They were truly alone. The storage room was massive. Rows of containers stretched into the darkness. Most were empty or filled with useless supplies. But in the back corner, they found what they came for. A Velran plasma weapon, complete and undamaged. The same type of weapon that had burned Earth. Dongsu examined it carefully. This is incredible. The power source is still functional. If I can study this, I can figure out how they generate so much energy from such a small device. Can you copy it? Hana asked. With time? Yes. But this is just the beginning. If there is one weapon here, there might be more at other abandoned sites. The Empire is ancient. They must have left technology scattered across thousands of systems. Hana smiled. It was the first piece of good news humanity had received in 50 years. Loaded up. We are taking everything. They spent 6 hours searching the station. They found weapons, shield generators, and data storage devices filled with Velran technical information. When their ships were full, they prepared to leave. That was when the alarm sounded. "Contact!" shouted one of her pilots. "Velran patrol ship entering the system." Hana ran to her cockpit and checked the sensors. A single Velran cruiser was approaching. It was small by their standards, but still 10 times the size of her little scout ships. "They must have noticed our entry," Dongsu said. "Automated sensors, maybe. It does not matter how they found us. What matters is getting out before they catch us." Hana's hands flew across the controls. "All ships, prepare for emergency jump. We are leaving now." The Velran cruiser moved fast, too fast. It was between them and their escape route. "They are charging weapons," another pilot reported. "We cannot outrun them," Hana thought quickly. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "When you cannot win, change the game. All ships, follow me," she ordered. "We are going through the asteroid field." "That is suicide," someone protested. "No, it is our only chance. The Velran ship is too big to follow us in there. Trust me." Two. She pushed her engines to maximum and dove toward the dense field of spinning rocks. The other ships followed. Behind them, the Velran cruiser fired, but the shots went wide as they entered the chaotic maze of asteroids. Hana flew like she had never flown before. She dodged rocks the size of buildings. She squeezed through gaps that should have been impossible. Her heart pounded. Her hands ached. But she did not slow down. One by one, her ships emerged on the other side of the field. The Velran cruiser tried to go around, but by then it was too late. The human ships jumped into hyperspace and vanished. When Hana returned to Station Omega, General Taeho was waiting for her. His old face was filled with emotion. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." Hana handed him the data from the mission. "We found their weapons, General. We found how they killed our world. And now we are going to use it against them." The Acepris. Taeho looked at the data, then at the young woman in front of him. The next generation. The generation that would finish what his generation had started. "Prepare the engineers," he ordered. "It is time to build a fleet." The Ghost Fleet rose from the shadows of forgotten space. In the dark regions between star systems, where no light reached and no empire bothered to patrol, humanity built their instruments of revenge. Shipyards hidden inside dead comets, factories buried beneath frozen worlds, training grounds on moons so small they did not appear on any map. 20 years had passed since Hana recovered the Velran technology. 20 years of reverse engineering. 20 years of building. 20 years of waiting. Admiral Jaewon had given his life to start this journey. His daughter Hana had found the keys to victory. Now it was time for someone else to lead the final assault. His name was Kite. He was 45 years old, born on Station Omega, 2 decades after Earth burned. He had never seen his species' homeworld, except in old recordings. He had never breathed natural air or felt real sunlight on his skin. But he had grown up on stories of what humanity lost, and those stories had made him into the leader he was today. Admiral Kite stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, the flagship of the human fleet. It was a massive warship, built using stolen Velran technology, but designed with human creativity. The engineers had not just copied their enemies' weapons. They had improved them. Around the Vengeance, 700 more ships waited in the darkness. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and thousands of smaller fighters. Every ship had been built by hand over decades of patient work. Every pilot had been trained since childhood for one purpose. "Admiral, all fleet commanders report ready," said his communications officer. Kite nodded. He looked around the bridge at the men and women who served under him. They were the descendants of survivors. The children and grandchildren of the 8,000 who escaped the burning of Earth. Every single one of them knew why they were here. "Open a channel to all ships," Kite ordered. A light blinked, showing the channel was active. Across 700 ships, crews stopped their work and listened. "This is Admiral Kite," he began. "70 years ago, the Velran Empire attacked our home without warning and without mercy. They killed 7 billion of our people. They burned our cities. They poisoned our oceans. They turned the planet where humanity began into a dead rock floating in space." He paused, letting the weight of those words settle. The Empire believed they had destroyed us. They recorded humanity as extinct in their databases. They moved on to conquer other worlds, never thinking about us again. We were just another species they erased, just another problem they solved. Kite's voice grew harder. They were wrong. The bridge crew watched him with fierce attention. "For 70 years, we have hidden in the dark. We have rebuilt. We have trained. We have turned our grief into strength and our anger into weapons. Now we have something the Empire never expected to face. A human fleet, armed with their own technology, ready for war." He pointed at the star map on the main screen. It showed 12 Velran systems, each one marked with a red target. "Today we stop hiding. Today, the Ghost Fleet strikes. We will hit 12 targets at the same time. Supply stations, shipyards, military bases. We will destroy them all before the Empire even knows we are alive." Across the fleet, weapons charged, engines warmed up. Pilots gripped their controls with white knuckles. "Some of us will not survive this day," Kite continued. "War demands sacrifice. But every one of us chose this path freely. Every one of us knows what we are fighting for. This is not about territory. This is not about politics. This is about justice." He raised his fist. "For Earth!" The response came from 700 ships, voices shouting together across the void. "For Earth!" Kite smiled grimly. "All ships, jump to your assigned targets. May our ancestors guide us. Ghost Fleet, attack!" The first battle happened at the Zekron shipyards. Hannah, now in her 40s but still the best pilot in the fleet, led the assault personally. She commanded 50 warships against a station that built cruisers for the Imperial Navy. The Velran defenders never saw them coming. Human ships appeared from hyperspace already firing. Plasma beams cut through the station's shields like paper. Explosions bloomed across the shipyard as docked cruisers detonated one after another. "All units, focus fire on the central reactor," Hannah commanded. "Bring down the whole station." The Velran response was slow and confused. They had no protocols for this kind of attack. No species had ever struck their facilities so boldly, their communications filled with panic and disbelief. "This is impossible," screamed one Velran commander. "Where did these ships come from?" Hannah opened a channel that she knew they would hear. "You should have killed us all," she said. Then her ships fired their final volley. The Zekron shipyards exploded in a ball of white fire. Similar scenes played out across all 12 targets. At the Kasan supply depot, human destroyers overwhelmed the garrison in minutes. At the Velar Military Academy, young pilots who had never faced real combat died before they could reach their ships. At the orbital weapons platform above Tracon 4, Admiral Kite himself led the charge that destroyed the station's main cannon. By the end of the day, 12 Velran facilities were nothing but floating debris. Thousands of enemy soldiers were dead. And humanity had announced its return in a way the galaxy would never forget. But Kite knew this was just the beginning. "Admiral, we are receiving transmissions from the Velran homeworld," his officer reported. "They know what happened. They are mobilizing their entire military." "Good," Kite said. "I want them mobilized. I want them angry. I want them to come looking for us." He looked at the star map again. The 12 destroyed facilities were just the first step. The real target was much bigger. "Send a message to the fleet," he ordered. "Tell them to regroup at the rally point. We hit them hard today, but the Empire will recover quickly. We need to keep the pressure on." Over the next months, the Ghost Fleet became a nightmare for the Velran Empire. They struck without warning and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They destroyed supply convoys. They ambushed patrol ships. They freed slave species from conquered worlds. Each attack was designed to accomplish two goals. First, To weaken the empire's military strength. Second, to spread fear. And it worked. Velron citizens, who had lived in comfort for centuries, suddenly felt unsafe. Their government, which had promised eternal security, seemed helpless against the ghost ships. Questions began to arise. How could a supposedly extinct species hurt them so badly? What else had their leaders lied about? Kite watched these developments with satisfaction. He had studied the histories of ancient Earth, learning how empires fell. Military defeat was rarely enough on its own. To truly destroy an empire, you had to break its spirit. You had to make its people lose faith in their rulers. The Emperor is holding an emergency council, Hana reported during one of their strategy meetings. Our intelligence says he is furious. He has ordered every available ship to hunt us down. How many ships? Kite asked. At least 2,000, maybe more. Another officer looked worried. Admiral, we only have 700 ships. We cannot win a direct battle against those numbers. Kite smiled. Who said anything about a direct battle? We are not trying to defeat their fleet in open combat. Not yet. We are trying to wear them down. Make them chase shadows, stretch their resources thin. He pointed at the map. The Empire controls 100 star systems. They cannot protect all of them at once. While they search for us in one place, we strike somewhere else. While they reinforce one sector, we attack another. Death by 1,000 cuts, Hana said. Exactly. The Velran Empire has not fought a real war in centuries. They have forgotten what it means to face an enemy who will never give up. We will remind them. The campaign continued for 3 more years. The Ghost Fleet moved constantly, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. They hit targets that hurt the Empire economically. They destroyed factories that built weapons. They freed prisoners who joined the human cause. And with each victory, the human fleet grew stronger while the Empire grew weaker. Finally, after years of preparation, Kite gathered his commanders for the meeting they had all been waiting for. The time has come, he announced. Our scouts have confirmed that the Velron defensive fleet is at half strength. Their economy is damaged. Their people are afraid. And most importantly, their arrogance has become desperation. He pressed a button, and a new image appeared on the screen. A beautiful planet, orbited by dozens of defense stations. This is Velron Prime, the homeworld of the Empire, the place where they planned the destruction of Earth. Kite's voice was hard as steel. It is time to end this. It is time to show them what humanity can do when we have nothing left to lose. The commanders looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. The final battle was about to begin. The Ghost Fleet gathered in the darkness for the last time. Every ship humanity possessed floated in formation around the Vengeance. 700 warships and 2,000 smaller fighters. Compared to the armada that had burned Earth 70 years ago, it was a small force. But these were not ordinary ships crewed by ordinary people. These were weapons of revenge, built by survivors and flown by their descendants. Admiral Kite walked through the corridors of his flagship, speaking with crew members along the way. Some were nervous, some were eager. All of them understood that many would not survive the coming battle. A young engineer named Su Bin stopped him near the weapons bay. She was only 19, born and raised on Station Omega. Her grandmother had escaped Earth on one of the original 12 ships. Admiral, can I ask you something? She said. Kite nodded. Of course. My grandmother died last month. Before she passed, she told me about the day Earth burned. She said she could still smell the smoke in her dreams. Subin's eyes were bright with unshed tears. She made me promise to see this through to the end. I just want you to know that I am ready. We are all ready. Kite put his hand on her shoulder. Your grandmother survived so that you could be here today. Everything we have built for 70 years has led to this moment. We will not fail her. We will not fail any of them. He continued to the bridge, where his senior officers waited. Hana was there, her gray hair tied back in a practical knot. She had devoted her entire life to this cause. So had Dongsu, the engineer who had first studied the captured Velran weapons. He was an old man now, but he still insisted on serving aboard the flagship. "Status report," Kite ordered. "All ships are in position," Hana replied. "Jump drives are charged. Weapons are online. The fleet is ready." "What about the enemy?" Dong-Su pulled up the tactical display. "Our scouts report 1,200 Velran warships defending the homeworld. Another 500 scattered across nearby systems. We estimate they can call in reinforcements within 6 hours of our arrival. Then we need to end this in less than 6 hours." Kite studied the display carefully. "Show me the defense stations." The image zoomed in on Velran Prime. 40 orbital platforms surrounded the planet. Each one bristled with weapons powerful enough to destroy a battleship with a single shot. "Those stations are our primary concern," Hannah said. "As long as they are operational, we cannot approach the planet. Our ships would be cut to pieces." Kite nodded. He had spent years planning for this exact problem. "Then, we take out the stations first. Deploy the assault teams." Kite nodded. The assault teams were something new. Small ships, barely larger than fighters, packed with explosives and piloted by volunteers who knew they would not return. They would fly directly into the defense stations and detonate their cargo from inside. It was a suicide mission. Every pilot had volunteered knowing this. "The assault teams are ready," Hana confirmed. Her voice was steady, but Kite could see the pain in her eyes. Some of those pilots were people she had trained personally. "Open a channel to them," Kite said. The channel opened, and he heard the breathing of 70 pilots waiting in their tiny ships. "This is Admiral Kite. What you are about to do will save countless lives and end an empire that has caused more suffering than any other in galactic history. Your names will be remembered forever. Your sacrifice will never be forgotten. I wish there was another way, but some battles require us to give everything. Thank you, all of you." A pilot named Junho responded for the group. His voice was calm and clear. "We understand, Admiral. We chose this freely. For Earth. For the 7 billion. Tell our families we died well." "I will. I promise." The channel closed. Kite took a deep breath and gave the order that would begin the final battle. "All ships, jump to Velran Prime." The Ghost Fleet tore through hyperspace and emerged in the heart of the enemy solar system. Alarms screamed across the Velran homeworld as sensors detected the impossible. Hundreds of human warships, appearing from nowhere, heading straight for their planet. "Defense stations are targeting us," Dong-Su reported. "Assault teams, go now," Kite ordered. The 70 small ships broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the orbital platforms. The Velran gunners tried to shoot them down, but the ships were too small and too fast. They weaved through the defensive fire like insects. Junho led the way. His ship dove toward the largest station, dodging beams of deadly energy. He could see the massive weapon barrels turning to track him. He could feel the heat of near misses washing over his hull. "I am going in," he announced calmly. "See you on the other side." His ship punched through the station's outer hull and buried itself deep inside. A heartbeat later, the explosives detonated. The station broke apart in a cascade of fire. Across the orbital ring, similar explosions lit up the darkness. One by one, the defense platforms died. Some pilots were shot down before reaching their targets. Others made it through and completed their missions. In the end, 32 of the 40 stations were destroyed. "The path is clear," Hana shouted. "All ships, engage the enemy fleet." The Ghost Fleet surged forward. The Velran defenders moved to intercept them. The two forces met in the space above the alien homeworld, and the battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships fought with the desperation of a species that had lost everything, and the skill of warriors who had trained their whole lives for this moment. They used tactics the Velran had never encountered. They coordinated with a precision born from decades of shared purpose. The Vengeance led from the front. Kite commanded his ship directly into the heart of the enemy formation, drawing fire away from smaller vessels. His guns blazed without pause. His shields flickered under constant assault. "Admiral, we are taking heavy damage," an officer warned. Hold the line, Kite ordered. The longer we keep them focused on us, the more time our strike teams have. Hana led those strike teams. Her squadron of destroyers had one objective: reach the planet's surface and destroy the Imperial Palace. It was not just a military target. It was a symbol. Destroying it would show the entire Velron population that their rulers could not protect them. But first, she had to get through the enemy fleet. Her ship twisted and rolled through a storm of weapons fire. Around her, she saw friendly vessels exploding, friends dying. But she did not slow down. She could not slow down. Stay with me, she called to her remaining ships. We are almost through. A Velran cruiser moved to block her path. It was massive, 10 times the size of her destroyer. Its weapons powered up to fire. Hana did not hesitate. She accelerated directly toward the cruiser, pushing her engines past their limits. At the last possible moment, she rolled her ship 90 degrees and slid through a tiny gap between the cruiser's hull and its weapon arrays. The Velran ship tried to turn and follow, but it was too slow. Hana's squadron passed it and continued toward the planet. Behind them, the main battle raged on. The Ghost Fleet was taking losses, but so were the Velron. The enemy had more ships, but they were fighting without coordination. Their commanders had never faced a real threat before. They did not know how to handle an opponent who was not afraid to die. Admiral Kite watched the battle unfold from his command chair. Blood ran down his face from a wound he did not remember receiving. His ship shook constantly from impacts. Smoke filled the bridge, but they were winning. Slowly, painfully, they were winning. Admiral, Dongsu called out. Reinforcements are entering the system. Velran ships from the outer colonies. Kite checked the sensors. 300 more enemy vessels were approaching. They would arrive in less than an hour. Signal Hana, he ordered. Tell her she is running out of time. She needs to complete the mission now. Hana received the message as her squadron entered the atmosphere of Velron Prime. The alien world spread out beneath her. Cities of crystal and metal covered the continents. Rivers of light flowed between towering structures. It was beautiful, in a cold, perfect way. But Hana did not care about beauty. She only cared about the large building complex at the center of the capital city. The Imperial Palace. The place where the order to destroy Earth had been given. All ships, target the palace, she commanded. Fire everything. The human destroyers unleashed their full arsenal. Plasma beams and missiles rained down on the ancient structure. The palace's shields held for a few seconds, then collapsed. Explosions tore through marble halls that had stood for 10,000 years. When the smoke cleared, the Imperial Palace was a crater. Hana opened a communication channel on all frequencies. She wanted every Velron on the planet to hear her. This is Commander Hana of the Human Ghost Fleet. 70 years ago, you destroyed our world and killed 7 billion of our people. Today, we have returned. Your military is burning, your palace is gone, your empire is falling. She paused, looking down at the terrified alien world below. You should have made sure we were all dead. Now you will learn what it means to face a species that never forgives and never forgets. The reckoning has only begun. She turned her ship back towards space, where the battle still raged. There was more work to do. But the message had been delivered. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was the hunter now. The battle above Velron Prime lasted 14 hours. When it finally ended, the space around the alien homeworld was filled with wreckage. Broken ships from both sides tumbled slowly through the void. Some still burned with fading fires. Others were cold and dark, tombs for the thousands who had died inside them. The Ghost Fleet had paid a terrible price. Of the 700 warships that began the assault, only 300 remained. Of the 2,000 fighters, barely 500 survived. But the Velron defensive fleet was completely destroyed. Every single ship had been either captured or turned to debris. Admiral Kite stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, looking out at the alien world below. His ship was heavily damaged. Half the crew was dead or wounded. But they had won. Hana's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, All enemy resistance has ended. The Velran government is requesting terms of surrender. Quote, Kite closed his eyes for a moment. 70 years. 70 years of hiding, building, and waiting. 70 years of carrying the memory of 7 billion dead. And now, finally, it was over. Tell them I will speak with their emperor in person, Kite said. On the surface, in the ruins of his palace, the shuttle landed in what remained of the imperial courtyard. Once, this had been a garden of rare plants from 100 conquered worlds. Now it was covered in ash and broken stone. The golden towers that surrounded it had collapsed. The fountains had stopped flowing. Kite walked through the destruction with a small escort of human soldiers. Hana was at his side. So was Dongsu, who had insisted on being present despite his age and injuries. The Emperor of the Velran waited for them near the remains of his throne room. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that showed no emotion. He was very old, over 400 years by human counting. He had ruled the empire for 2 centuries. Around him stood the last of his guards. They were armed, but they made no move to attack. They knew it would be pointless. So, the Emperor said, his voice was deep and cold. You are the humans. What remains of us? Kite replied. No, thanks to you. I remember when we received reports about your species. You had just discovered space travel. You were curious and friendly. You wanted to make alliances, to trade, to learn. The Emperor tilted his head. We discussed what to do with you. Some suggested we simply ignore you. Others proposed making you servants. But you chose to kill us instead. I chose to be practical. Your species was spreading fast. Your technology was advancing quickly. In 1,000 years, you might have become a threat. Why take the risk? Better to eliminate the problem early. Kite felt his hands forming into fists. 7 billion people, children, families, artists and scientists, teachers and farmers, all of them burned because you thought we might be a problem someday. That is how empires survive, the Emperor said simply. We have done the same to 47 other species over our history. Most never reached space. We destroyed them before they could. Your kind was simply the most advanced. Hana stepped forward. And now your empire is finished. Your fleet is gone. Your palace is rubble. Your people are afraid. She pointed at the smoke rising from the city. Was it worth it? All those civilizations you destroyed? Did it really make you safer? The Emperor was silent for a long moment. His 4 eyes studied the humans before him, as if seeing them for the first time. I underestimated you, he finally admitted. I thought the survivors would scatter and fade away. I did not believe you could rebuild. I did not imagine you would be willing to sacrifice so much for revenge. That is because you do not understand us, Kite said. You have ruled an empire of obedient subjects for so long that you forgot what it means to face a free people. We do not bow. We do not surrender. And we never, ever forget what was done to us. He stepped closer to the Emperor, close enough to see his reflection in those alien eyes. You asked if we are the humans. Let me tell you exactly who we are. We are the children of Earth, the descendants of 7 billion souls who cry out for justice. We are the ghosts that you created when you tried to murder an entire species. And we have come to deliver a message. What message? The Emperor asked. Kite's voice was quiet but filled with the weight of 70 years of pain. You should have killed us all. Because as long as even one human survived, we were always going to come back. We were always going to find you. And we were always going to make you pay. The Emperor stood in silence. For the first time in centuries, he had nothing to say. Here are our terms, Kite continued. Your military will be completely dissolved. Your weapons will be destroyed. The species you have enslaved will be freed. And you personally will stand trial for your crimes against humanity and every other civilization you have harmed. And if I refuse? Kite glanced at Hana, who spoke for him. Look around you, Emperor. Your guards are loyal, but they are few. Your fleet is gone. Your defenses are destroyed. You have no power anymore. You can accept these terms and preserve what remains of your people, or you can refuse and watch everything burn. The emperor looked at his ruined palace, at his exhausted guards, at the human ships visible through the broken dome above. He had ruled for 200 years. He had conquered countless worlds. He had never faced defeat. But he was also practical. He knew when a war was lost. I accept your terms, he said quietly. Kite nodded. He did not feel triumph. He did not feel joy. He only felt tired. And perhaps, somewhere deep inside, a small measure of peace. Take him into custody, he ordered. The human soldiers moved forward. The Velran guards stepped aside without resistance. The emperor of the greatest empire in the galaxy was led away in chains. Later that night, Kite stood alone on the balcony of a captured tower, looking out at the alien city below. Fires still burned in some districts. Evacuation sirens echoed through the streets. The population of Velran Prime was experiencing something they had never felt before: fear of another species. Hana found him there. She looked as exhausted as he felt. The other commanders are asking what happens next, she said. The war is won, but there is so much work to do. Rebuilding, managing the occupied territories, freeing the enslaved populations. I know. Kite kept his eyes on the horizon. But that is a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, let me just stand here and remember. Remember what? Everything. The day Earth burned. The faces of my parents, who died in Station Omega's first year. General Teho, who never lived to see this moment. All the pilots who sacrificed themselves to break through the defenses. Everyone who gave their lives so that humanity could have this day. Hana nodded slowly. 7 billion lives lost. And now, finally, justice. Not justice. Kite said. Nothing can bring back what we lost. Nothing can truly balance the scales. But at least now they know. The whole galaxy knows. Humanity is not a species you can attack without consequences. We are not victims. We are survivors. And we will always fight back. He turned to face her. In the firelight, she could see tears on his cheeks. Tell the fleet to send a message to all human settlements, he said. Tell them the war is over. Tell them the Empire has fallen. Tell them their children can grow up in a galaxy where humans are no longer hunted. Hana smiled through her own tears. I will, Admiral. I will. The message spread across the stars. On hidden stations and forgotten moons, in underground bases and converted asteroid ships, humans heard the news. They cried. They cheered. They held each other and whispered prayers of thanks to ancestors they had never met. Earth was still gone. 7 billion lives could never be returned. But the species that had tried to exterminate humanity was now defeated. The descendants of the survivors had accomplished the impossible. They had turned their grief into strength, their anger into purpose, and their desire for revenge into ultimate victory. And somewhere in the endless dark between stars, the ghosts of 7 billion souls finally found peace. The humans had kept their promise. The Empire was destroyed. Forever.